So some interesting news outside of all these, crossovers and electric vehicles going on. You actually have Hyundai talking about releasing a truck into the market.
Yeah, they've talked about it in the past before, but now it looks like it's actually going to come to the market. So that's some pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, so all of that info we got right here on this episode. So in the world that we live in right now in America, trucks surprisingly do well, even with gas prices. I mean, right now they're pretty low, but normally everybody's going after these really fuel-efficient vehicles. I think that trucks, for some reason, are just the exception to the rule.
Yeah, people are wanting more space right now, so trucks and SUVs reign supreme in the U.S. market. People still buy sedans if you live in larger cities and maybe you don't need as much space and you really do need something that gets closer to 40 miles per gallon or something. But as an average, trucks and SUVs is what sells the most in the U.S. right now.
So with the Hyundai Santa Cruz, we're expecting, because the only thing we have right now is about a sideways or a side shot of it in its camo and it's some covers on it. But in size, I would compare it to the Honda Ridgeline and probably about the Nissan Frontier. It's about a mid-sized truck. It's not a full-size truck like you'd see a Ram or a Silverado or a F-150.
Yeah, it's definitely much smaller than that. So pretty close to, like you said, the Frontier. A little bit smaller than the Ridgeline is what it looks like. Ranger, Colorado, Canyon, Tacoma, stuff like that. However, though, I don't think Hyundai is going to have the truck capabilities as the Ranger and the Tacoma, which do perform better in that, segment.
It's not their wheelhouse.
Yeah, but it'll still be for people who want the truck experience and like the bed of a truck and the truck size and space, but aren't going to be towing stuff, larger than like a jet ski or something.
Right. But I could still see it having some capabilities, especially, with Hyundai having some serious success across all of their vehicles right now, and if you talk about Genesis as well. But I'm assuming right now that with the prices assumed to be starting at about 25 grand on the lowest version of the base model, there will be probably a couple engine options similar to the Santa Fe, being that's a 3-row SUV, pretty big size, not necessarily the Palisade, but we're expecting it probably to have an option of a inline 4, as well as what they currently have is the 2-liter turbo, which puts out pretty decent. I think it's a little above 264 horsepower. So it's very impressive for Hyundai specifically. And I think even in that truck market, I think that's actually pretty competitive if you want to talk about the Frontier and even the Canyon as well as the Colorado. I think that's very competitive.
Yeah, and for what it really will end up being is it's mostly just going to be a more fuel-efficient mid-sized truck. It's not going to be a powerhouse towing everything around tiny truck. But at the same time, though, like we said earlier, that is what the market's wanting, which is why you're seeing Hyundai crank out larger vehicles like the Palisade and now the Santa Cruz. That's because that's what they're wanting. Not as much. They're not going to create a different Sonata, a different sedan, because really the Japanese and Korean sedans are doing a lot better than like the American ones, but overall though they're still going to make more bigger, larger, better SUVs and trucks.
And I actually see this truck doing better in places like Texas or southern markets where the gas prices aren't as high, but where people primarily do buy trucks. It's a tough market out there because you're competing with the king of them all, which is the F-150. And the Ranger still does pretty well. I think this is a opportunity that if marketed and advertised well enough by Hyundai, I do think they could have some success. But that is all dependent on what Hyundai decides to do with their advertising, because that's not up to me. I do marketing on my own, but not necessarily
not for Hyundai. Well, one thing that Hyundai should and needs to capitalize on is the fact that a lot of these truck buyers, they want to buy domestic trucks. They like to buy stuff that's made in the U.S., and much like the Tundras, they're made in Texas, and like we see them down here all the time. They have a big old sticker on the back that says, made in Texas with the Texas flag. So it's like, oh, it's a Japanese vehicle, but it's made in Texas. The Santa Cruz is supposed to start production later in 2021 in the Montgomery, Alabama plant. So made in America, Korean vehicle, but made in the States. So I think they should definitely put that somewhere in the marketing plan.
Right. And I definitely think that with its starting price, the only other truck at this moment that started that low was the Frontier. And that was something that Nissan hung their hat on, surprisingly, because if you guys do a little bit of research, the Frontier outsells the Titan tenfold.
Yeah.
It's insane. Nobody talks about it. You don't ever see advertising for the Frontier. But I do think people recognize it. It's like an understood truck. And that's another truck, actually, not in this video, but is getting another redesign. I think that's a big opportunity for Nissan as well.
There's some leaked camo spy shots of that truck as well too. So all the mid-sized trucks are just launching and releasing the pictures of it. But like Josh said, yeah, they're not doing too great with the Titan and the full-size trucks, but the Frontier is still kicking butt and taking names in the mid-sized truck segment. So you could see something like that from Hyundai, who doesn't have a full-size truck, but for this being their first truck that we'll see come into the market, it's a pretty good step to kind of test the waters on that.
And I could definitely see some of these guys that are out there that may not necessarily, they think the Hyundai Santa Fe looks good, but they're like, maybe that car is more for a woman, and they're worried about that. They actually may feel more comfortable going and getting the Santa Cruz that I would assume would have a lot of the same features. And Hyundai does pack some nice features in their vehicles. So I'm thinking you could have some heated and air-conditioned seats on a much higher trim, as well as some decent performance for a truck. All in all, I think if it's done well, like I already said, it should sell well in the market.
Yeah, Hyundai's been stepping up their interior game for sure, just to carry off that point. So we'll see what happens when we get more photos and we get closer to a debut. So
yeah, expect another video from us. I mean, we'd love to talk more about this truck. We like trucks. He likes some more. He drives one right now.
I do have one.
But if you guys are interested in the mid-sized truck segment, I think that's a very niche segment. It's growing a little bit here of late. But if that's one of you guys, go ahead and let us know in the comment section. Let us know on all of our social media. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you're updated on any time or you're alerted on any time we have new content out there.
Yeah, so without further ado, that's Gulf Coast Gearheads signing off.